In the next few minutes, you're going to learn how to make your computer play this music. There's a really good chance that you don't know how to read music. I'm going to guess that if you're a student in my class, there's probably like a 99% chance that you don't know how to read music. So this is some music here. You don't have to learn how to read music. So the thing is, there are some notes here. All these things are notes. So this is Mary had a lit, and so forth, These are all notes that the instrument has to play. These have names, and the musicians will just know by looking at it what the name of the notes are. But here they are. In case you can't read that, this is B A G A. So this is B A G A, and so forth. There's 26 notes here. You'll count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth. You count all the way down to the last one. You'll count 26. Similarly, there's 26 here. These are the names of the notes. Now, what else you need to know? You're going to need to know the name of the notes for your homework. And you're also going to need to know the duration of the notes. So you're going to see a lot of these. It's a black dot with a stick. That's a black dot with a stick, black dot with a stick, black dot with a stick. Those are called quarter notes. Those are called quarter notes. Quarter notes. Now, there's this one here that looks a bit different, doesn't it? It has a hole in the middle. This is called a half note. A half note lasts twice as long as a quarter note. So, for example, in the song, Little Lamb, when you sing lamb, it lasts longer than when you sing little. You sing the song to yourself and you will notice that lamb lasts longer than little. So anyway, this is called a half note. This is a quarter note, this is a half note. Similarly, this is a half note here. And this is a half note here as well. It's a circle with a stick. That's a half note. And then the only other one you need to know is this is a whole note. It's a circle with no stick. That's a whole note. So that's what you need to know to code up Mary Had a Little Lamb. And but you're also going to need to know. You need to also add drums. I also ask you to add a drum part on top of it. So you're going to have to stay tuned for the lecture that's coming. And I'm going to show you how to program some music that'll play these notes for the durations that we mentioned, and also I'll show you how to add some drums to a song in case you want to add some percussion to this song, or maybe you wind up really liking this library and you wind up writing your own music with it. So without further ado, let's get our computers configured to play with jMusic. So there's a few things I want to show you about the jMusic library that I think you need to understand, such that you can do the homework. It's a cool little library. I can't explain the whole thing to you, but I'm going to show you some stuff and hopefully, pique your curiosity. This is some of the stuff I want to run through today. Anyway, you're going to need to download the library before we do anything. I created a Java project that uses this library. I packaged it all up nicely for you. You have to come to this website. It's github.com/melviniandrag/jmusic. If you never used GitHub before, that's fine. But this is a pretty popular website, for programmers to use to exchange source code and what have you. So you're going to need to get this package here, this code here. You're going to come to the website, click the green button that says code, and click the download zip button. Unless you already know how to use GitHub, in which case you know how to use GitHub. So do normal GitHub things. If you don't understand, just click download zip. It's fine. Click download zip and then save the zip somewhere. Now, I've already done this. I've already downloaded the zip and it's here on my desktop. It's this one here. I downloaded the zip. It comes as jmusic-master, and then I right click and extract all, and I extracted it here to my desktop, and here it is when I extract it. It's here. Inside there's some stuff in here. Okay, so we can close that. So now you've downloaded and extracted the zip. You come here you open Eclipse, and right here it says import projects. So you click import projects, and you're going to want to import general project, an existing project into your workspace. Because, and you see here, Git comes up again. So if you know how to use Git, you can try doing Git stuff, but we're not talking about that now. If you want to figure it out on your own, that's fine. Otherwise, just download the zip and then come here, general, click existing projects in the workspace. Actually, I've already run through this before, so some of this is already done. What would happen was you wouldn't see that there. You click browse and come to the location where you downloaded the the thing. Come to where you downloaded and extracted the thing. In my case, it's here. Keep clicking through until you find the jMusic 165 source directory. Click that. This is what's inside of it. Once you get there, you click select folder, and then make sure you've checked this thing. You click refresh. Or make sure you check this project here, and then finish. And then you'll see here we have I've packaged up all the jMusic code is here. All the jMusic library stuff is here. It's a very big library. You'll see all kinds of Java files. If you've never seen, like, an industry Java project, if you've never seen, something that a professional programmer has done, well, I mean, this is like the first time you see it then. Usually projects are really big. Really big, a lot of files here. You don't need to understand most of them though. We're just going to take a look at a few of them. So there's that. And then I also put a package here called CS365. This is all the stuff that we're going to look at in the next few minutes together. Okay, so I think now we're ready to start talking about making music with Java. We're gonna start looking at jMusic now. To support that, to help you out, I've given you the textbook. One of the authors, Andrew Brown, he's one of the authors of jMusic. He published a textbook about it, but this thing is very out of date. This book is from 2005, but it's still a great reference. It still covers how the library works. And we're going to look at chapter 4 and 5 in this class this week, maybe next week. We're going to look at chapters 4 and 5. You can read the book if you want or not. Anyway, I'm giving it to you in case you need a reference, if you need something to read. The main thing I want to show you today is on page 79. Which explains how jMusic works. It's on page 79. Are we there? It's this diagram here. This is how jMusic works. In jMusic, you create a score. That's a song. And in the song, you put certain parts. Every part is a musical instrument. So you're going to put some parts inside the score. So you have a song with different instruments playing. So for example, if you're writing like a rock and roll song, you'll probably create a score called like rock and roll song. And the parts you're going to put in will be like bass guitar, like lead guitar, rhythm guitar, drummer, and I guess that's it. And then there'll be like a vocalist or whatever. And then different, if it's like a salsa song, if you're writing some like salsa music or something, or Latin music or something, with jMusic, your score would probably include like a trumpet, piano, maybe a guitar, bass, some assortment of percussion, instruments, what have you. Anyway, you put all the instruments in as different parts, and every instrument will play phrases. Phrases are like little bits of notes. So there'll be like little riffs on the guitar or what have you, or little drum patterns for the drummer. Those will be called phrases, and phrases are made of notes. So this is so you'll create a class, an instance of a class called score. Inside that, you'll add some parts, and inside the parts, you'll add some phrases, and the phrase you'll add some notes. So that's how jMusic works. Pretty easy, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And jMusic, what we're seeing here, jMusic is like a wrapper, around MIDI, around what's called the MIDI standard. MIDI is like it's a specification for how electronic music works. It's one of the specifications for how electronic music works. So there's like some numbers you can program. You can programmatically set some numbers to choose instruments. The instruments go from 0 to 127. These are the ones supported by general MIDI, and these are the numbers corresponding to them. MIDI has channels. MIDI has what are called channels. MIDI will support up to it'll support 16 channels. That's 16 different instruments at once. It can play at the same time 16 different instruments. And one of the channels, though, channel 9, the channels go from 0 to 15, but channel 9 is reserved for what? For percussion. So if you want to put some drums, those have to go on channel 9. If you want to put one of these other instruments here, like an electric guitar or a trumpet or something, that can go on channel 0 through 8, or it can go on channel 10 through 15, but it can't go on channel 9. And there's more information about it too. And there's numbers for notes as well. Instruments play notes, so these are the notes that you would want to play with your different instruments. And MIDI, you program them by setting numbers. And when you program, drums don't play notes, so the numbers that so these would be the notes that you would play on like an instrument, like a guitar or something like that. You would play like maybe an A7 would be like a note you could play on a flute or something like that. But you don't play an A7 on percussion. There's no way to play an A7 on a drum set. So instead, those numbers for drums, they map to different percussion sounds, like a tambourine, cowbell, some hi-hats, bass drums, and stuff like that. Okay. So anyway, jMusic is just a wrapper around those MIDI ideas. So the first thing we can look at is this Make It Bing program. Let's have a look at this thing and get started with jMusic. Finally, after much promising, right, we're going to get around to actually looking at jMusic. So here's the first example we'll look at. It's called Make It Bing. The code you have in the repository the one you downloaded might look a little bit different than this. So you can change yours to look like this, or play with the one you want, with the one that you have either way. Or maybe I'll have updated it by the time I send you this video. I don't know. But in any event, you'll see this code. Well, let's just listen to it. It's just going to play some notes on the piano. Okay, and it keeps going. I think you would call it a chromatic scale for the musicians. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still trying to learn this music stuff myself. But anyway, you see we have a score here. The score has a part in it, a piano part, and the part has a phrase, and the phrase has some notes. I already showed you before that in MIDI, with this electronic music, notes are referred to as integer values. So here we're playing notes from which one to which one? 51 to 99. 51 all the way up to 99. We're creating some notes, and the notes are the ones from 51 up to 99. They happen to be quarter notes, and we're putting those in the phrase, and we're putting the phrase in the piano, and we're playing that score. All right, so that's one example, and here you see that it plays a song. Here's some to-do things I want to cover for you, but first let's just run through some examples so you see the thing in action. You know, what does this piano here mean? What does 0 mean there? What does BPM mean, and why do I have it up here as 120? What's a quarter note? What's happening here? I'll explain all that later. Let's just look at some examples. Here's another one that's percussion. This is a percussion example. You can listen to that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're playing an interesting, little beat with Java. Pretty interesting. And we'll revisit. What is this number 9 here? Well, you may already know from what I've told you before. What's this number 25? You may or may not know already. What does 65 here mean? We'll get to it, And the rest, C2, QN, what does all this stuff mean? Don't worry about it. We'll get to it. Relax. I'll tell you in a minute. Phrasing. Here's another cool example. Now, this one introduces a concept of chords. Something called a C phrase. It's just like a phrase, but instead of playing notes, it's playing chords. And we got two instruments here. We got an electric piano and a kalimba. You can Google that to see what that thing is. It's like a thing with little metal, keys on it, and it's a little cute sounding thing. See how this. Great. Okay, that sounds nice. This is actually an example right from the book. And I want to show you now. This goes into your homework. So right now I'm going to give you your first clue for your homework. So this piece I was listening to just as I was preparing the lecture, and I thought I was working with this example, polishing it, make sure it looked good and sounded good for you. And then I was working on this one, polishing it, make sure it looked good and sounded good and what have you. But then I thought, you know what, so here's something I haven't done before. I have split the window with Eclipse. How did that happen? You probably just drag that back there. Very good. Okay, so anyway, it has this hats phrase. I thought that would sound good because this hats phrase here goes. It sounds like that. You hear it. You'd hear it in the song. I thought that little hats phrase would sound good here. And then on a whim, I just put it in. And it was really easy. That's why I've added this assignment to you to add some drums to your Mary Had a Little Lambs thing. I'll show you how to add some drums here. We're going to need another phrase. We'll call that a hats phrase. This is going to be some more hi-hats. That cymbal sound, that metallic sound. And then I thought it would sound really good with just this. This would sound good. We'll put that here. All I'm doing is I'm showing you how easy it is to add. I'm adding some percussion to the song right now. And I can add a new part called a drum part. And that's a new part. And to add drums to a song, so you see when you create a part, you can do it like this. You put a string, you specify the instrument, and then you put the MIDI channel you're going to use. Well, that's one constructor, but there's multiple constructors for part. Part has another constructor that's like this one here. This one you see doesn't have a string. It only has an instrument and then a MIDI channel. It doesn't matter. There's multiple constructors. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to go with this one that has a string. So I'll put hats part, and I'm going to put now an interesting thing here is it doesn't matter what instrument you put because we're going to be on MIDI channel 9, and if you remember I already told you that MIDI channel 9 is only for percussion. So it doesn't matter if I put piano or tuba or trombone or whatever it may be there. It doesn't matter because the code is only going to pick up the channel in this case, which is 9. You remember channels 0 through 8 and 10 through 15. Those are useful for other instruments. Like this one here, this one is on channel 0, and this one here is on channel 1, because that'll be for other instruments. But channel 9 is exclusively for percussion, so it doesn't matter what instrument you put, it'll be a percussion sound. So anyway, I've created the part. I have to put, I can add the hat phrase to it. Okay, and then I just need to make sure that I put the drum part into the song. So I can add the drum part. Okay, so I've added some drums there. And then the only other thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to want that to repeat. In fact, we can just listen here. Here's another little utility function, mod.repeat. You'll see it imported up here. It's in this jMutil package. It's a little utility thing. I'll show you what happens without it if we hit play. See, it only played once. So we want that thing to repeat. Yeah, we want that to repeat, and that's what this is for. You heard that the percussion only went one time. If you didn't hear it, we listen again. That's not what we want. It only played once, the percussion. So we're going to want to repeat the percussion sound. And how many times do we want to repeat it? Well, let's see. How long does this song last? The song is going to last, well, the piano part, this Rhodes part, is 7. It's going to repeat 7 times. And that's how many beats for the piano part. The Rhodes part is the chord part. And the chords part, it has 1, 2, 3 half notes. So that's 6 half notes. That's 6 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats, and 2 beats. That'll be a total of 6 beats, repeated 7 times for a total of 42 beats. So let's make sure that the drum, we need 42 beats. So this is actually only 1 beat. This is a 16th, and a 16th makes an 8th. An 8th and an 8th makes a quarter note. So that's a quarter note, so we want 42 of those for 42 beats, because a quarter note takes 1 beat. So we'll put 42. We can listen now and see if that all lines up nicely. That sounds good. That's not what I was envisioning. I was envisioning it being a little bit slower. And in fact, the issue is here. I was actually envisioning this being an 8th note. A little bit slower. Let's slow this down by a factor of 2. So the 16ths become 8ths. The 8ths become quarter notes. And now, instead of repeating it 42 times, since we've this thing is going to last twice as long now, so we'll make this just 21. And let's see how that sounds now. There you go. That's more what I was envisioning with this thing. Anyway, now if we wait till the end, I think that we'll see that the piece, all the instruments are going to end at the same time. Although we're going to wait here for a long time, so we can actually speed up the speed of the piece. If you remember, the score constructor takes a beats per minute, takes a tempo. Right now the tempo is set at 130 beats per minute. So instead, let's speed that up to 200 beats per minute. That'll make the song run a little faster. Sure, now I'm just checking to make sure that all the instruments end at the same time. Make sure we did the fractions right. Perfect. Perfect. So just like that, that's how you add some percussion. And then, if you're a musical genius, or some aspiring rapper, you can come up with a way better beat than that, right? This is just hitting the hi-hat a few times, but it's still pretty interesting. It's an F sharp 2, F sharp 2, and an A sharp 2. We can actually, just out of curiosity before we move on, I can take a look at what these notes mean. Here's a cool thing you can do with Eclipse. You can right-click on something, for example, on a constructor or on some constant or anything, and you click Open Declaration, and it'll open the file where the thing is declared. So here we see a sharp 2 is a 46, and the drum is playing that, and the drum is also playing F sharp 2. So F sharp 2 is 42. If we go back over to that link from before, we have what, 46? 46, that's open hi-hat, and 42 is a closed hi-hat. Great. Great. You can play around with different percussion sounds if you want. For example, we can change the to bongos. We can change the bongos by putting C and C sharp. I don't know which one that is. 60, 60, and 61. That would be here. C4 and C sharp 4. So I'm going to want to hit the high one twice quickly and then the low one once. So we'll do 60, 60, and 61. Let's see how that sounds. So we'll do 60, 60, and 61, which were referred to as C4, C4, CS4. Oh, you can come back here. So we'll do, see how this sounds. C4, C4, and a C sharp 4. See how that sounds. Sounds good to me. Sounds pretty cool. It's something, we could play with it more. We could do other things as well. Pretty interesting. Very interesting stuff. So we're making songs with Java. So I showed you make it bing examples, phrasing example. I showed you this little percussion example. And the last one that's going to be super important to you while you're doing your homework is this popular kids songs. So I've nearly done the whole thing for you. I've coded up 3 children's songs for you, and you'll notice that every children's song here, it takes, there are 2 arrays of interest. In fact, let me take a step back. What this code does is, in the main method, is you can create a song, and you can play it. And the song that you can choose are from this enum. So right now, this code supports 3 songs: Row Your Boat, Twinkle Twinkle, and Jingle Bells. Right now, the thing is programmed to be Row Your Boat. Depending on, I don't know how you've downloaded the repository. It may show something else here. It may show Jingle Bells here in your version. I don't know. You can change it. Doesn't matter. And here, I've been playing with it. Here, I put the church organ. I don't know what instrument you had before. You might have had a tuba or something, or a piano. You can change the instrument you want. And I'll show you where all the instruments are in just a second. But the main thing here to understand is that the instruments play notes, and the notes are specified in the note array. I've already told you what notes you need to play for Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? I showed you at the beginning of this video what notes Mary Had a Little Lamb has to play, and I also showed you the rhythm for Mary Had a Little Lamb. I told you about the quarter notes and the half notes and the whole notes, so you're going to need to put those here. Quarter note is QN, half note is HN, and whole note is WN. So you're going to need to put the proper rhythm and the proper notes. And then you can just play it. So here, let's just make sure this thing works. Row Your Boat. Does that work? It does. Sounds like Row Your Boat to me. And let's check out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So I've specified it up here. And we could play a different instrument. I'll show you now where the instruments are from. If you right-click here on piano and go to Open Declaration, it'll open all the list of instruments that you can choose from, and they're all here. I don't know what all these are. For example, there's some weird ones in here, like a shakuhachi. No idea what that is. Yeah, here's one for the Zelda fans. What's a charang? I have no idea. What's a chiffer? I have no idea. But you can hear all these things, lots of different instruments and sounds. There's the thumb piano thing. Koto, what is that? I don't know. Shamisen. I think I've seen that. That's a Japanese thing. Right all right, but you know, anyway, well, we'll go with this one. We'll go for the Zelda kind of Nintendo thing. Let's see how that sounds, and we'll play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with that. Very good, very good. So, and again, now you could read through this code to understand it. It's the same as before. We create a score, we add a part to it, and we add a phrase. Okay? There's a score with a part and a phrase. Now here's a note and a rhythm array. You got to specify that for the song that you want to play. I've done it here in a switch case kind of thing, where it's switched on this enum value. If you want for your homework, you can just extend this to have also Mary, you know, etc. Mary had a little lamb, and then you can add a case to the switch. You could put here, you know, case Mary, blah 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 blah, and then make sure you break after you set the notes and rhythms appropriately. And then here you see with the phrase, we add the note list. So to the phrase, we're adding the notes and the rhythms, and then to the instrument, we're adding the phrase, and then the song, we're adding the part to it, and then in the end, we play the song. Great. So, I mean, this is very interesting for me. I hope I've convinced you that it's interesting, and I hope you found it interesting as well. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so maybe I'm not conveying the right amount of energy that I'm trying to, but I hope that you see how this is really interesting, you know, and I've given you a few examples here on how to make music with Java. So I think that's that. And then I'm going to take a breath here, and then I'm going to look over what we've talked about, and then I'm going to try and fill in the gaps, make sure that we covered everything you need to know. And so now I'm just reviewing everything to make sure that I've told you everything I think you need to know. So I tell you about score, part, phrase, note, chord, and C phrase. I think I did. Score, yeah, there's a score here. It has a constructor. It takes a string and beats per minute. That's how fast you want the music to play. Beats per minute is if you want the song to play slow, you put 1 beat per minute. So it would be, you know, boom. You wait a minute, and it would be really slow, you know. But if you're listening to, like, you know, some rave music, you know, house music or something, some sort of electronica music, maybe that'll be something, it'll be like 180 or 250 beats per minute, like something really crazy fast, you know, like for dancing to or something to, or like a rave kind of thing. Or if you listen to like a R&B song, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the beats per minute will be a little lower. It'll be like the tempo will be slower. So you can adjust the tempo of the song for what kind of genre of music you're trying to write. The part is just synonymous with an instrument, and you can pick an instrument. Part has multiple constructors. I showed you a few of them. If you want to see all of them, you know, you right click on part and go to open declaration. Right click on it, go to open declaration. It'll take you to the part file, and this is the library code. You don't need to know all this stuff, but you can see how the library works. These are all the different constructors that part has. But there's one of them that takes a title, an instrument, and a MIDI channel. So this part here, I just called it piano, but it doesn't matter. It's just a string. It's for our sake. It's an identifier for a thing. And you can put the instrument here. I showed you what instruments you can choose. And, you know, right click there, go to open declaration, and you can see what all instruments, you know, there's there to choose. There's a goblin in here. If you want to check out, what does goblin sound like? I have no idea. The goblin isn't really an instrument. I don't know why that's there. You know, seashore, birds, gunshots, applause, you know, and other instruments, fiddles. An interesting thing I noticed here with the instruments that I wonder why it's like this is it goes 13, 14, and then 16. Where's 15? 15 isn't in here. And the instrument 15 is in the standard, it's a dulcimer, which is like it's an American instrument, kind of a guitar, like a stringed thing. I think you play it on your lap. It's like an Appalachian thing. You'll find in like North Carolina and in the Appalachian Mountains. Traditionally, I guess. I don't know why that's not supported here. You can try and put 15 in here. Put sound, instead of that, you put 15 and then see if you can hear anything. That would be what the MIDI standard would say would be a dulcimer. You could see if you hear it or not. I don't know why that's missing. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of instruments. You put goblin in here and see what that sounds like. Ooh, capital, right? Goblin. You could put that in. and see what it sounds like. You can play with the channels here. If you put 1 or you put 2 or you put 4 or whatever in there, you'll hear those will all work the same. However, if you put 9, that'll be percussion. Right? I told you that MIDI channel 9 is percussion. And I told you what a phrase is. The phrase constructor. There are multiple ones of those as well. There are multiple phrase constructors. Sometimes they take a double, and the double refers to what beat you want the phrase to start on. So you can experiment with that. For example, with this one here, you see all these different phrases here. They all start on beat 1, but you can change that. For example, you could have this one start on beat 3, and you could start this one on beat 5, and see what happens. Something like that. So if you don't put this phrase constructor here doesn't take a value, I think that means by default it probably starts at beat 0. But if you're not sure, if you're curious, you right click here, go to open declaration, and here if you don't specify a value, it starts at default start time, and that's min start time, and that's 0 indeed. So that's how you look through source code to see how things work. All right, now we just see how this thing sounds. You can start the phrases at different times and just see what happens when you do that. So, whatever, you play around with it. You can change the start time for the different phrases. Very, very interesting. Here's another part constructor I showed you. This is 25 here. That corresponds to an instrument, but I was telling you it doesn't matter what instrument you put there if you specify MIDI channel 9, because that's going to be percussion. We can look at what instrument 25 is if we come back here to this program changes file. 25 is a steel guitar, so that would be the same as if we had put in steel guitar, but that it doesn't matter. That's going to be ignored because this is on the percussion channel. So you see, even if I put in steel guitar, it's still going to sound like drums because it's going to ignore that, because on MIDI channel 9 it's percussion. If you don't believe me, change this to 0, and we can speed up the tempo here because that thing sounds slow. Just see how this sounds if you change it. You'll see it sounds like a steel guitar. That sounds awful. It sounds awful. But anyway, that's because this wasn't written for steel guitar. But anyway, that's how that works. Chord and C phrase, you don't really need to know that, so we'll just ignore that. Note, I showed you note, right? You add note and new note, C2, QN, sure. Phrase has methods, add note and add note list. So you can add notes, and if you add notes one by one, and every note specifies the type of note and the duration of the note. Or you can add a note list, which is what we did for this one here. Instead of adding notes one by one, you can add a note list, which takes an array of note names and an array of rhythms, just like this. So it's a note array and a rhythm array. And the note array specifies the name of the notes, and the rhythm array specifies the duration of the notes. Okay, so that's 2 methods for phrase. The score method has an add function, that's for adding parts. Here's an important thing to understand. Java is passed by value. I always try to convey this information in my classes, 101, 102 classes, but I fear that it goes over people's head, and it may take a few years to understand what that means. So you don't worry about it, but this is a prime example of how Java is passed by value. And I'll just show you that we can take that there and put that down there, and you'll see that the piece works exactly the same. So anyway, that's fine. If you know that Java's passed by value, or you want to understand what I'm talking about, ask me about it. It may come up later in lecture, but this example here is a wonderful example of why Java's passed by value. Anyway, there's a few files of interest. There's the pitches.java file. I think we looked at that. Pitches here lists all the notes and the number. Part and score, that just tells you about how the part and score class works. Program changes, that lists all the instruments that you have. And the durations file, I don't know if we looked at that yet. but the durations file lists all the available note durations. So you see here, there's quarter note. Quarter note is 1.0, 1 beat. You know, let me see, where is... Yeah, quarter note lasts 1 beat, and there's synonyms for it. You can also say QN. You can say quarter note, crotchet. I don't know if that's, I've never heard that here, but maybe that's like a British English kind of thing to call it a crotchet. I've never heard that. You know, there's semi brevi. I don't know. I've always heard those whole notes. I've never heard anyone say this, but anyway, there's different ways to write whole note. You can look at this file and you'll get it. Different durations. I told you about the MIDI channels over and over again. And there you are. I already raised the question, why is instrument 15 missing? So I think that's enough. We should talk more about it, but I think now you got to go and explore, you know. I told you a lot of information. Now you download the code, you play with it, break it, you know, get a headache, try and figure it out. If you really get it, you know, go and try and write one of your favorite songs. See if you can write one of your favorite songs in Java, or maybe you can write some cool new composition. So good luck. We'll talk about this more in lecture, but this is I hope hopefully a good introduction for you to get going on your homework. So good luck, and we'll talk more about this later.